Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to yet another edition of Buds and Blue Jays. I'm your host, Jesse Burrell, and today I'm not joined by my co-host, Riley McConnell. Riley had to take some time away to deal with some personal matters. So today we are joined by my good friend and fellow Blue Jays fan, Quinn Abram. Quinn, what's up? How are you, man?
Good, thanks. Honored to be the first guest of the show. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, big shoes to fill, man. Our number one guest we've ever had. Maybe you'll be the answer of a trivia question we have someday.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Today on the show, sorry, before we get started there, I got a question I'd like to ask all our guests, Quinn. One, how did you become a Blue Jays fan? And two, do you have a favorite Blue Jays memory?
Yeah, so I think becoming a Blue Jays fan, I think that was someone in part for my parents growing up. So they were actually there in '93 when Joe Carter hit the home run.
Oh, no way.
We've got the tickets framed in our kind of sports man cave at home. And so, yeah, I think like I can't point a specific moment that I became a Blue Jays fan, but it was just kind of something, like it's kind of like the summer thing to do. You throw the game on. Mm-hmm. And as both a Leaf and Jays fan, a lot of that time was not spent having success, but you still cheered on the team. In terms of civic moment, I would say the one for me, it was, I'm not sure, it was 2013, 2014. It was like it was the last homestand of the season with my family. The Jays, they were well over the playoff race. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the kids were up. And that was when they originally called up Dalton Pompey.
Oh, okay.
And we were at the game and he hit two triples.
Oh, wow.
Meaningless game, but two triples. And the 20,000 fans in Rogers Center just went nuts. And that's one that stands out to me. It's like, you can call it a concrete mausoleum a little bit, and I know we're going to talk about the stadium a little bit later. Yeah. But like when you get enough fans in there rocking, that place is as good as any.
Yeah, Rogers Center is something different. I remember when they were first making their playoff push in 2015, just the way the stadium kind of is and it's loud, all the sounds echoes off each other, and it's absolutely insane. I'll tell you what, I was not expecting a Dalton Pompey reference when we started this show today.
I'll be honest, I have a jersey in my closet. It didn't work out quite the way I'd hoped, but hey, but I was certainly a fan.
In that time, like 2013, Dalton Pompey, young guy, Canadian kid, right, full of potential, coming up in two triples in a game. That's impressive. It's a good memory to have there. All right, well, today on the show, we are going to discuss the labor talks that was going on. I was really hoping that today's episode could be an episode where we start talking about the players having an agreement. We're all in set. We're full go to the next Major League season. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So we're going to talk a little bit about the labor situation, what's going on. Then we're going to talk about the stadium and some stadium upgrades that the Rogers Center are going to do. And then we're going to play a little fun game. It's called Which Blue Jay is most likely to blank, where I'll read out a question and then you and I are going to banter back and forth about which Blue Jay we think fits the answer to that question. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. As excited as you and I are to be here, we can't say the same for Major League Baseball. MLB and the Players Association had instituted a deadline for Monday, February 28th in order for a deal to get done. And I don't know about you, but I was glued to my Twitter feed. There was 9 straight days of negotiation. Some days seemed bleak, other days seemed hopeful. And after a 17-hour session on Monday that led to the wee hours in the morning, the two sides were not able to come to an agreement. So I'm thinking we'll give you a little quick rundown on what the two sides are asking for so we can really hammer into this and see what's going on. So the first thing that the players and the owners are trying to agree on here is what the minimum salary is going to be in 2021 or in 2022 and going on. The minimum salary in 2021 was just over $570,000, which is the lowest out of the 4 major sports, but also baseball plays significantly more games than other major sports, so we'll see. The league wanted to raise that to $700,000 with about a 1.4% increase over the next 5 years, where the players wanted to start it at $725,000 with a rough increase about 2.5% over the next 5 years. So, it doesn't seem, at least my thoughts on that, it doesn't seem like they're too far off. And, just the difference of percentage points here or there, or a starting base salary here or there, you got to think they can come up to agreement on something there.
I think so. I think it's a pretty easy one to come to. And, it adds up. Like there's a lot of players playing for the minimum or close to it where they're going to see their salary raised. But at the same time, I expect, within 5 years, if you took the players deal, for example,
right,
just because minimum salaries goes up doesn't necessarily mean payrolls will. Yes. It'll just kind of further condense the middle class in. But yeah, I agree. You would be hopeful that they can come to an agreement there. I think out of all kind of the major points, that one they seem to be closest on.
Mm-hmm. And that seems to be the one too where we've had a give and take on both sides where they've kind of pushed these numbers together. So optimist, but hopefully that can be ratified pretty soon. Now, the next issue that these two sides are trying to accomplish is the competitive balance threshold, which it's not a salary cap, but the way the owners kind of use it, it kind of is a salary cap. And right now we're set at 210 million in 2021. And this is the big thing that is kind of really stalling talks between the players and the union. The players want it at about 238 million with roughly a 2.5% increase over the next 5 years, where the league wants it set at 220 million, and it'll go up to 230 million with 5 years, but no increases until 2025. So that's kind of where they stand right now. It's still a pretty big difference, and I've seen some reports where some owners are just, no, 220 million is the max we're going to go. We're not going to go over that. And the players seem kind of tough to move up there, 238 million. So got any thoughts on that there?
Yeah, it's interesting on both sides. So it's like I see the players' perspective. I think it makes a lot of sense. It didn't have much movement over the last CBA, which probably is one of their biggest gripes and biggest losses that the players had in the previous round.
Right.
But moving forward, moving it up 2 million per year, which is less than 1%. I mean, for how much revenue baseball is growing, even in spite of COVID-19, I think it makes sense the maximum goes up, and it's only affecting a handful of teams. But you brought up a very interesting point on the owner side, and that's that there's very different viewpoints. Right. You have the 30 owners, and I'm not sure what number it is, if it's 2/3 or whatnot, that have to agree on a deal on their end.
It's 23 of the 30 owners.
Okay. Yeah. So about what, 3/4 that is, I think.
Give or take, yeah.
And when you think about, okay, you have on one side your Red Sox, Yankees, Cubs, Dodgers, even the Blue Jays are probably on the lower end of that scale of teams that are spending towards the higher end, and comparing that to your Pirates, Rays, Royals,
Oakland.
Exactly. Like those teams have very, very different viewpoints on that. And, if you're Tampa Bay, for example, of course you don't want the CBT to go up, because you don't want the Yankees to get, an extra Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton that they can throw on the field, where you're going to basically spend the same amount of money.
Right. And it's kind of tough because, there are penalties for going over the salary cap, which the player side and the owners are discussing what those penalties should be and whatnot. But a lot of the owners don't go over it anyway, right? They use the penalties as an excuse to cut stuff down. And what you don't want is, like you said, the big gap between the rich to spend even more and the poor to not spend as much. So I don't know how we're going to be able to come to an agreement on this. This seems like the big issue that the players and the owners are going to have to come across. And until we get real movement on this, we might be stuck in labor talks for quite a while.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I don't know. I think especially on the owner's end, it's like, I'm not sure there's a consensus of what the ask should be. It's more so what the ask has to be to get enough owners to agree to it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I agree. Like, how much room do they have to move, and how long is it going to take them to get to a point that they will?
Yeah, and I know a lot of people see these numbers and they think, well, why is just millionaires and billionaires fighting over different money? But like the players, what they want is, there's, like you said earlier, there's so much more money in this game, and the players just want their share. It's not like they're asking for, they want a new yacht or a new boat, or we want to be rich beyond our wildest dreams. They just want to keep up with inflation, and they want their piece of the pie. Because my theory on this is that the players are the product. And if we don't have the players, the owners they have socks and they have laundry, and so they need the players here. And I think the players should get what they want. And I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose.
I mean, I think the interesting thing is, if you took the players' numbers today, if the owners just agreed to them, it's probably still a net loss for the players.
Yes.
Like, versus if they actually dig in and pushed. And that's kind of the sad thing, is like, I don't think the asks are so unreasonable that you can't negotiate to a deal.
It's just the owners, you really feel like they're just trying to get every penny they can, right? They're businessmen. They're all businessmen. They've done it by pushing the margins and making extra money wherever they can. And this feels like no exception. It's just, I don't know if they can put a price on missing games and losing a fan base and all this stuff, how it'll affect their future income down the lines. or I feel like the owners just think the fans are going to return anyway. They have in years past after lockouts and labor issues. They have in other leagues. So I think maybe they're just counting on that. And don't worry if they miss a handful of games throughout the season.
Yeah, they're holding us hostage.
Yeah,
we want games. Like you said, it's like we wish we were talking about the start of spring training right now. You know, less than a month to opening day. And, you know, for me, it's, you know, I haven't seen a game in person in well over 3 years now. You know, I'm in Montreal now, so it's a little harder. And then with COVID, it's like, you know, I'm pumped to go see these players. And this Jays team is, you know, really as good as we've had in our lifetimes. You know, it measures up with those Bautista and Encarnacion teams. And it's sad that we're sitting here and not being able to kind of enjoy that.
Right. We are now into year 4 of Vlad and Bo Bichette's career, and they have yet to play one full season of home games at Rogers Center, which is just, I just find crazy to me. And it's not going to be the case this year either.
Yep.
So,
that is, when you put it like that, it's sad.
Yeah. So we'll see where things end up with the CBT. That's going to be the big thing. Once you see that number kind of move or get closer together, or one side makes an agreement towards the other, that's when I think the hammer is going to fall. And we're going to be able to really get close on some of the other issues that they have here.
Agreed. The rest of it, I agree. I think that if they can get that piece together, they can find a middle ground on the rest and get some games going.
Perfect. I'm with you there. Some of the other things that they're trying to cover is there's a pre-arbitration bonus pool. So one of the agreements that the players really want is they want to get their younger players paid earlier, especially those people in rookie deals, so the years 1 to 3 on their contract. So the players are trying to get a pool of $85 million that'll cover about 150 players. How that's all divided up in the specifications is beyond me. I haven't looked too far into that. The owners in the league are counting with just 30 million to only cover 30 players. Plus, they thought about adding incentives for, like, if a guy comes top 3 in rookie of the year, for example, they'll get an extra year service time or whatnot. But I'm not a huge fan of that either, because if you're putting how much money a player gets paid based in the hands of the baseball writers, that's a lot. And I feel like all the salary should be made from the owners and the clubs and the agents going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it makes sense. I think especially in this analytics era where you've seen that, you know, guys, they hit 30, they're out of their prime and you know, they might've been an all-star and now they're fighting just to make a roster. And the squeeze is on to that point, especially in the middle class. And I think, if you can redivert some of that money, again, it's not going to really change the economics of the game that much on the macro scale in terms of what payrolls are. Yeah. But, you know, a guy like Vladdy last year, like, what was he? He wasn't even making $1 million, was he? As he put up MVP?
He was, but he was making very low amounts of money. I don't remember exactly. I think this is his first year of salary arbitration, though.
Yes.
So now his price will slowly rise up. But still, he's not getting paid the price he should be if he's putting up MVP caliber numbers.
Exactly.
It's the Chris Bryant thing in 2015 where the Cubs kept him down and they got MVP seasons from Chris Bryant in 2016 where he's making slightly more than league minimum. That's the type of money the players want put into their players because they produce so much value for these clubs. These clubs are getting increments amount of value. Even if they're paid, say, $2 or $3 million, that's still worth it to the clubs, and they would easily pay that for the player who's putting up that much value. So,
well, it's worth it. It's worth it for the game too. Like right now, you think about Vladdy, Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, like the fantastic young stars that are there right now. Like that's what's going to bring in the new generation of fans. It's going to keep bringing in money and interest and give baseball the prestige that it's somewhat lost from its heyday.
Like between the young players we have in this game, like Tatis, like Acuna, like Soto, like Shohei Ohtani, like the entertainment value on the baseball field might be better now than it's ever been in the history of baseball. And the fact that we can't get these over these minor disagreements in terms of dollars and where they go that barely even cover the rate of inflation just seems insane to me. And I don't want to get into too big of a tangent here, but I really hope they can figure it out here soon so I can get it right thinking about it.
I agree. Like that's like, you know, everyone's talking about, you know, how baseball is, you know, maybe not dying, but it's shrinking a little bit from the prominent spot that it's once had. And the best antidote to that is these new young star players, like getting those guys out, getting those highlights, like they do some incredible things on the field. Absolutely, that your jaw drops. That's what sells baseball.
Yeah. It's not like, I know baseball has numbers have declined in the past, and a lot of people say where baseball is dying is that the average age of a viewer is much older than you and I, right? A lot more people our age are going to watch football or basketball or something completely different. But in baseball towns where there is baseball, baseball is still huge, right? In Toronto, there's a massive fan base for Toronto. St. Louis and all these other areas where there are Major League Baseball teams, baseball's still very big. Baseball's still huge in Japan. It's still big in Korea. It's still big in Dominican. So it still has a very big following, so to say. But not getting these guys on the field is just, it's going to destroy what's already there. And I've heard from lots of people, friends, family, relatives, people on Twitter who just say, like, I love the game. I love it so much, but they make it really hard to be a baseball fan right
now. Yeah. Oh, agreed. It, this is the time of year where it's like you can almost, mark on your calendar. You get to kind of the first week in April, last week in March, and it's like baseball's coming back. I'm going to sit down, grab a beer, and beginning of the year, it doesn't matter how good your team is. There's still some hope.
Mm-hmm.
You're 0-0, and it's like, let's just see where it goes.
Yeah, you win the first 2 series of the year, and you feel so good, right? You feel like anything's possible, and there you go. Well, let's keep going with this, though. There is going to be a change in playoff structure for 2022 and beyond. This is something that the players kind of had to give up. If the owners really wanted an expanded playoff, so if the players were going to get their increases they wanted in arbitration and in the CBT, they had to agree to an expanded playoff structure. And it looks like the league wanted 14, the players wanted 10, so they've compromised, and we're going to have 12 teams in the playoffs in 2022. And the way things kind of stand right now, there's going to be more details to edge out as we go, but it sounds like the top 2 teams in each league would get a bye, while the other 8 teams, so the 4 playoff teams in each league that did not come 1 or 2 in their overall league, are going to play best of 3 series to determine who moves on. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Okay.
On the expanded playoffs?
Interesting. Yeah, kind of reminiscent of the shortened season a little bit.
A little bit, but that was 16 teams, I believe. So
yes.
We're only doing 12 here.
Yeah, I like the best of 3. Like, that's the one thing. The wild card game is super exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But one game in baseball, who the heck knows what's going to happen?
No, any team can beat anyone in one game, right? It's completely random.
Yeah. And even three games, like, you can very easily have, what might be on paper a lesser team come out on top. But if you've got the top 2 teams, they've earned that bye through. Mm-hmm. I think overall that's fair. And I think all the teams that get involved in the tournament, you've got a chance. You can afford to lose a game. You've got a chance. I think as a fan, that's exciting. Get a few more teams in. And I know as a fellow Blue Jays fan, when the Yankees and Red Sox for the better part of 15 years were taking 2 playoff spots, we were screwed.
Yeah, like Jays were never getting in, man.
Like we were playing for 3rd place and not even a sniff of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I like that now. And I mean, you saw last year too, there were three at least teams getting in, and we just missed out by a game.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, very, very. But I think, like, again, like if you imagine last year, you get a best of 3 series. Even if we lost, you get a best 3 series, but you get Vlad, Bo Bichette, Springer, Robbie Ray at the time. You get these kind of star players, up and coming players and veteran players, and you give them that spotlight. And it's just 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
They're there. Mike Trout, like, let's get Mike Trout in the fucking playoffs.
I'm with you, dude. I'm actually going to throw some money on the sports betting accounts that the Angels win that division, or at least make a playoff spot this year. See what we can get, because it's time. We got to get Ohtani in there. We got to get Trout in there. I even love like Anthony Rendon and some of these young guys like Joe Adell and Brandon Marshall.
Get them healthy. Yep.
So yeah, that'll be really good. But we need the spotlight on those guys to go. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And we've kind of decided as a fan base, like even the tournament before was never really a way to determine which baseball team was the best. I think the numbers show, like, if you want to play a series where the better team wins, I think it's like 75% of the time, you have to play like 116 game series or something like that.
Okay.
To happen. So that's not going to happen. So we've kind of decided that this tournament is fun. Let's get in there. And like you said, one bad game where your pitcher, slips on the mound and throws a bad pitch or something, it's not going to cost you your season, but it should be fun. And once we get to the playoffs, that's something I'm really looking forward to. Should be a good time. The other thing we're going to get in our labor agreement here is that baseball's finally going to have a draft lottery. Now, this is something the players wanted to try to prevent tanking, because as we saw a lot of teams, like we saw the Houston Astros do it in the early 2000s, we've seen a lot more teams lately, they do a massive bottoming out, like kind of what the Orioles have been doing lately, where they just go in and then they stock their team with draft picks so that they have this young core and they can all bring them at the same time. The owners want their draft lottery to be just the bottom 5 teams get it, and each of the bottom 3 teams have an equal chance of getting the first overall pick, 16.5%. We've seen draft lotteries through other sports before. I know the NHL and NBA have them, and they've kind of worked, I believe, throughout the year. They've kind of made things exciting where teams can kind of move up where you don't think they could before. And it's always a fun day on sports Twitter when the ping pong balls are rolling around to see which team gets a number 1 overall. The players there, they have a much more complicated system here. They want the bottom 7 teams that are eligible for the draft lottery. And it's all based on a set of rules based on revenue sharing and market size, what exactly of those odds are. I can read them all out to you, but that's way too much numbers and way too much jumbo. But yeah, that's kind of where they're at there with the draft lottery system. But again, seems something that should be agreed upon pretty simply here.
I think so. And I mean, so the one end, like, I admire the players' ingenuity, but I will say that, like, there's details on, you can only pick in a certain position so many times in so many years. That might reset if you're a small market team. That, if you have a good year, that might increase your odds.
Yeah,
there's a lot of interesting details. I will say that I think you have to be very careful in that system because I think there are probably some gray areas where you could really screw over a team that doesn't deserve it.
Right.
And get some really wonky results in there. So, like, I would be a little hesitant to maybe fully embrace that aspect of the player side, but I think it's promising that at the very least both sides are pushing for what's a sizable lottery, really.
Yeah, and it's the main goal of it is to just prevent tanking, right? Like, baseball's a better product when every single team on the field is trying to win games. Now, some teams going to win, some teams going to lose. There are always going to be bad teams, but it's good to know that the teams are at least trying to put their best foot forward, not only for themselves, but for the fans as well, that they get to go to the ballpark and they get to see these things happening. So good that there's a plan in place to try to make this happen. There are also small little things that there still need to be negotiated and whatnot, such as there might be an international draft and there might be some on-jersey advertising that the players can give to the owners here. But that stuff all seems very minor. Both sides have agreed to a universal DH, which is going to happen in the National League. I know Riley and I talked about that when it was rumored a few episodes ago. And plus, they're going to cap the number of times a player can be sent to the minors at 5 in a season. So we've seen players in the past, particularly relievers, who come in, they'll pitch, and then as soon as they're done pitching, they'll send them right down to get another fresh arm in there. So the players like that they're capping that at 5, and I think the owners kind of do too. So that's been agreed upon. So progress, I suppose.
Slowly, but surely, hopefully.
Yeah. Hope we'll get there. I do want to yes, I do want to give you a quote about what Ross Stripling has said on the Blue Jays. He's the Blue Jays player rep, so he's in there in the negotiations about how these tactics are kind of moving along. And it really does feel to me like the player, or the union, sorry, or not the union, the owners are very adamant of, if they had their dream world, they would play just a 60-game season. They would get their playoff money. They would get all their TV revenue. And here's what Ross Stripling had to say about it. Once I find the quote here. 2 seconds. He's like, yes, so it's got to be like 12:30 p.m. and the fine print of their CBT proposal was stuff we've never seen before. They were trying to sneak things through us. It was like we're dumb baseball players and we get sleepy after midnight or something. It's like that football quote. They are who we thought they were. They did exactly what they thought we would do. They pushed us to a deadline that they imposed, and they tried to sneak some shit past us in the deadline, and we were ready for it. We've been ready for 5 years. And then they tried to flip us on today in PR, saying that we've changed our tone and tried to make it look like it was our fault. That never happened. So it kind of seems like the owners are kind of playing their game here, and the players seem to be they're stuck in solidarity with each other to try to make things happen and try to make things right so they don't get screwed by what the owners are trying to do here.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, I think it's hard for the owners when you take a defensive lockout position and then don't submit an offer for 43 days of 60.
That's a bad luck, isn't it?
It's hard to find the high ground there. And I mean, they're trying, but like right now, I think without a lot of effort, the PA is winning the PR battle.
They definitely have the fans, at least the majority of fans that I've seen, on their side. I know Riley and I both, we're heavy on the player side. It sounds like you are here too. And it's just, like we said, the players are the product, right? Without the players, what do you have?
Exactly. And I mean, we've seen replacement players, we've seen replacement referees in various sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's never a good idea.
No. It doesn't sound like we're going to get to that point in baseball here, but yeah. So as things stand right now, they were not able to come to a deal from MLB's imposed deadline. So Rob Manfred and the owners have canceled the first 2 series of the season for every team. So the Jays are going to be missing 3 games against the Orioles and 3 games against the Rays. Now, if a deal is struck soon, there's a chance these games get rescheduled as doubleheaders or something like that. But it doesn't seem likely to me. It feels like we've just lost these games. We'll see where things end up there. But I guess we got to move ahead and we got to try to think what's next now, right? The players seem kind of stuck. It feels like the owners aren't listening to them, and the owners kind of feel like they don't really have to, right? They can kind of have their way, and the players are the ones that are going to be losing significantly more money as the games roll on. So it kind of seems like we're in a stalemate here. I was watching PTI the other day, and they had Jeff Passan on, and he reported that a deal really needs to get struck within the next 10 days or so. And if it doesn't, then we could be in real danger of missing months and months of baseball here.
I think so. I mean, if you're willing to lose those first 6 games, what do the next 6 mean in the 6 after?
Right. And it's when does it stop, right? That's what we got to draw the line here. When does the owners feel an urgency to step in and say, like, okay, now we actually need to put something on the field, right?
Well, that's saying because right now, I mean, an April weekday game, like that's not the moneymaker for the league. Mm-hmm. So the owners right now, this is their low revenue point. And I think the players, on the other hand, have said that, they're not going to agree to expanded playoffs for this season.
Yeah.
If the games are canceled, and that's the point where the owners are making most of their money. And right now, those 2 things are being held hostage against each other.
Right. The owners, a lot of people think, well, we just won't go to games. We won't support the owners. But Major League Baseball makes a large percentage of its money from the playoffs or from TV revenues. So Ken Rosenthal said on one of his things that the deadline for a deal to get done, if they don't have games on TV by, like, say, April 30th, give or take, then the teams that own their own TV network, like the Blue Jays and Rogers Sportsnet, for example, or the Yankees, how they have the Yes Network, Major League Baseball will start have to reimbursing those TV monies to those people. And I really don't think that the league would want to do that. They'd want to give out significant much of the money back. So if that would be around April 30th, give or take, and if Manfred said these players need 3 to 4 weeks to get a deal done, then we're probably looking early to mid-April, I guess, of when a deal would have to get struck before that happens. So in the meantime, that's another month or 2 away, or a month and a half away from really getting any progress on a deal made here, unless something else changes.
Yeah, agreed. I think at this point, like, unless, and really I think it's from the owner's side, because I don't think the players are going to cave. Like, unless the owners decide to move and make an offer that kind of inspires discussion, I think we're kind of at the same stage we were when they first got locked out. Like, we're just going to be sitting here for a couple of weeks until the pressure starts to build again.
Which is heartbreaking. Heartbreaking for us as big Blue Jays fans. Heartbreaking for the players, the fans, the people who use baseball as an escape from their normal life or to have their hobby. And it's an unfortunate
Certainly,
situation.
Especially with how difficult the past, few years have been. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people were just, excited just to have that as a backdrop and an escape. And it's not there right now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. But that's kind of where things are on our labor situation, where things stand. We'll keep tabs on it as we go. Tune into this place, tune into Twitter. We'll be tweeting up a storm about it. And let's hope sooner rather than later, something gets done here. But with that being said, let's move on to something a little more fun. As we tweeted out from our Buds Jays Twitter page, which blew up, by the way. It's been viewed by over 120,000 Twitter accounts and whatnot. It looks like the Blue Jays are getting updated scoreboards. And if you haven't seen it, I suggest going to our Twitter page, taking a look at it. The way it kind of looks is, if you've been to Rogers Center, you see the massive TV they have there. And in our picture, it looks like they've almost added bigger, longer rectangular ones on both sides of the scoreboard. So they don't go up nearly as high, but they go really far along and away on both sides. So it's definitely a much more bigger visual experience there. And I showed you the picture here, Quinn. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good sign. I think that this is something that, especially since Shapiro showed up, they've been thinking about how can we make the experience of Rogers Center better. Yep. And they had some ideas about a new stadium that don't seem to have gotten much traction. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now. And I think it's exciting. I think the more that you can kind of modernize that experience, the better. And certainly, I think the scoreboard's like an easy place to start.
Mm-hmm. It's good to see that they're actually slowly putting in work onto this too, that the plan has come in and it's come into action. I know that Rogers Center has experienced trying to get real natural grass in there. And I know they had some study at one of the Canadian universities here trying to figure that out. That seemed to have hit a stall. And the problem with getting a new stadium built is that Rogers Center, where it is in a real great location. It's like right in the heart of downtown Toronto. You got Union Station right there. It's not that far away from the airport either. It's a real good spot, and they're just trying to make it more modern. So Quinn, my question to you is, if you could add one thing into Rogers Center to make it new and feel good for you, what would you add?
I think, to be honest, a lot of it's just the aesthetics of the concourses. Okay. Like when you get into the kind of the back alleyways, it's just a lot of concrete. Mm-hmm. And it's really cold would be the best way I can describe it, especially if you go along behind the outfield. Like it's all sketchy even. But I think like they've done some work, in the past decade or so, especially on the lower levels, of adding some kind of new and innovative food options on the concourse. They've added a lot of beer, I think, in concert with DLCBO and whatnot. So they've got, some different craft beers and whatnot now. And I think the next step is really working on the aesthetics and kind of the experience when you're at your seat, I think is the best way I can put it. Like the more welcoming that you can make that environment, I think that's something that would, I think, be welcomed by a lot of fans.
They added the WestJet flight deck there a few years back, and that's been pretty popular. I know whenever I've gone to Jays games, me and my friends, we kind of like to stand out there and stand in the outfield. And it's something different than just sitting in your seat watching the game, right? And it felt kind of cool. So if they could add little stuff like that, like I'm not saying you don't need to put a hot tub in right field or you don't need to do anything wild like that, but something kind of cool and unique to keep people engaged, because let's be real, not everyone there is like us that is going to be glued to the baseball game. Some people want that cool experience of all the stuff that's going on there. So if you throw a bar, you throw a patio, or you throw, I don't know, something cool just to get a young kid in there and to get them hooked and to get them to really enjoy the experience is going to make them much more likely to come back in the future. So I'm excited to see what Mark Shapiro and the rest of the crew there can come up with. And yeah, as someone who's going to frequent Rogers Center a lot, I can't wait to see what they come up with.
Yes, agreed.
All right, so we'll touch on more stadium applications and stuff as they come up. I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot of fun stuff. But we're going to play a little game here now, Quinn. Have some little fun after the kind of downer to start the episode here. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and they're going to be fun. They're going to be goofy. They're going to be Toronto Blue Jays related. And you're just going to tell me what your answer is. You ready to go?
All right, let's give this a whirl.
And you guys watching on YouTube, if you have any suggestions, you want to leave an answer down below, feel free to go ahead. These are going to be fun. They're going to be a little goofy. All right, for the first one, if you had to pick one Toronto Blue Jay that you think is deeply invested into cryptocurrency, which Blue Jay do you think it would be?
I think that might be Ross Stripling.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so. I think he's got an interest in the labor side of things.
Right. And
I can't remember where I read this, but I actually think he does have an interest in more of the business side of things. And I think compared to a lot of the players, like he strikes me as the kind of guy who will be as successful, if not more successful, after baseball than he is in baseball.
Oh, okay. I like that take. Ross Stripling seems like a smart guy. He's got his own podcast out there, and like he's already got all these extracurricular activities there. My guess for this would have been Danny Jansen. I just feel like Jano's the kind of guy who could just sit there and spit numbers at you like crazy, right? I feel like he's got his own little textbooks and he's way out there. You know, he could be out on the pitcher's mound talking to the pitcher about you should invest in this and this and this and all this stuff. So that's kind of my guess on that answer there. But I do like the Stripling call. That will kind of lead into our second question here. And which Toronto Blue Jay do you think is most likely to go into either coaching or broadcasting after their playing career is over?
Ooh, okay. That's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in terms of most likely, I think a Danny Jansen. That actually might be the guy I go with. And I think a lot of that is just as catchers, and you've seen with Greg Zahn and now I'm blanking here. I think was Buck a catcher as well.
Buck was a catcher, yeah.
Yes, I feel like as a catcher, like it's so much more of a mental game. At least when we get an automated strike zone, that I think you see the game in a different light, and you can add an insight that most other positions can't. I think you're thinking it at such a level that there's so much insight. It's like Tony Romo when you're watching a football game. Like you just it lets you get into the experience on a more like personal ground level.
I think why catchers really do make good managers, you've seen it all throughout the year. Like John Gibbons was a catcher too. Was they have to know the offensive side of the game, the strategy side of the game, and they also need to know the pitching side of the game. And so when you're a catcher coming up and you learn all that, you kind of learn things from all perspectives. And that's and now even like recently with the amount of data that's coming in from the front office, you also kind of know that as well. So that kind of makes sense. I didn't have a great answer for this. I really don't think anyone on the current staff might be on there, but Reese McGuire, I guess, would be my guess. Just a guy who seems smart and can do his own thing. And I'll try to refrain from any dollar store parking lot jokes while talking about Reese McGuire, but I'm sure one will come out at some point here. For our next question, if you had to pick one Toronto Blue Jay to be your roommate, who would it be? Or I guess, who would be the best roommate to have from any of the Toronto Blue Jays players?
That's a good one. I might go George Springer on that one, actually. I think, like, just, and you're not down the field, but like from a distance, it seems like he has this kind of infectious, positive energy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he'd be the kind of guy who's like, if he's your roommate, he'd be like almost like a cheerleader in your life.
Just typing you up.
Like exactly. Good times, bad times. He would, I think, help to lift you up, and would also kind of, if he sees you're down, would also, lend a hand as well.
There was Craig Goldstein, who used to work in the Houston Astros front office. I was reading something else that he wrote, and someone asked him, like, hey, just what is George Springer like? Like, what's he like as a dude? And your call there was pretty accurate. He's like, he's very upbeat. He's high energy. Like, overall, he's a really good guy, keeps to himself. So, and plus, he doesn't seem like the type of guy who would make a mess and leave things everywhere. So
that too.
I like the call on George Springer. My call would be Cavan Biggio, because Cavan Biggio to me seems like the type of guy, when he gets into something, he can get really into something and be determined. So you could have like good video game sessions with Cavan Biggio, or you could have these nice engaging conversations with Cavan Biggio. So it's something like that would probably be my guess, but I think he knocked it out of the park with George Springer there. All right, our next question is, which Toronto Blue Jay is most likely to be out partying until late into the night?
Ooh.
I can go first if you're thinking about this one here.
No, I don't know. This might be oh, actually, I was gonna say Vladdy originally, but I'm gonna go with Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I feel like he's I'm literally sitting here. I'm looking at a picture of his hair, and I was like, I'm sold. But I think he strikes me as one of the guys that brings that energy to the ballpark every day. And I mean, you saw it last year with the home run jacket and whatnot. They seem to enjoy playing together. And I feel like Gurriel Jr. would be the kind of guy who would be a hype man to keep that party going.
I like that call. My answer to this is actually it's Charlie Montoyo, because I could just see him going out, and he gets the bongos going, and he starts to get some appraisal from a crowd or whatever. And Charlie just seems like a very personal guy or whatever, so time can slip by him before you know it. But I do like the Lourdes Gurriel call. He seems like a guy who could be out there just going wild, having the time of his life. For my next question here is, which Blue Jay do you think you could beat in a rap battle?
Ooh. This one might be Reese McGuire. I feel like he's not a rap guy. Like I could see, if we're talking country music, that would strike me as something I would expect Reese McGuire to kick my ass at. But in terms of a rap battle, I feel like he's not gonna quite have the energy needed there.
Mine would be Randall Grichuk. I do not think Grichuk seems very proper and informative, and I feel like Grichuk would not be able to spit some rhymes. Now, I can't spit rhymes either.
I'd be awful as well. So this is a hard bar to clear.
Maybe
I agree.
Yeah,
Grichuk was he was the other one I was debating. Mm-hmm. So I'm in agreement with you on that one.
All good choices. Plus, these guys who like country music, probably aren't into the rap scene, right? I feel like underrated though. I feel like Bo Bichette could spit some rhymes to you at some point.
I agree.
I think he's got it in there. Which Toronto Blue Jay do you think would be most likely to bring a guitar to a frat party?
I'm going to say Charlie Montoyo on that one.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't bring the guitar, but he'd probably have like, not only would he have his bongo drums, he maybe have like a little, like a mini kit of emergency bongos just to break out at any time.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Not, you may not the guitar specifically, but in terms of the energy, the type of person I expect to bring a guitar to a frat party, like just this really chill dude, trying to impart that vibe on anyone. That's what I kind of see with Charlie Montoyo.
Yeah, my answer isn't going to be a current Blue Jay. It's going to be an old one, but Aaron Hill is going to be my choice for this because I remember there were some reports of Aaron Hill just loved guitar. He played so much guitar all the time. Like he'd bring it into the clubhouse and stuff with him. He'd bring it on road trips with him. So, nothing too crazy, but he'd be my pick to go for that one there. And all right, Quinn, I got 4 more questions for you.
Okay.
Which Toronto Blue Jay secretly loves reality TV shows like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette?
I have no factual basis to go on this one.
Yeah.
But in terms of me looking at just the stock photos of all the Blue Jays, I'm going to go with Santiago Espinal.
You think so?
Yeah. He just strikes me as the kind of guy who, he's kind of sitting there and just kind of watching this, maybe this girlfriend, whatever, but secretly really enjoying the drama.
Right. Like he's on there watching Survivor being like, is he going to use the immunity idol this week or something like that?
Yes.
Right. So
exactly.
We'll see. My pick for this is Ryan Borucki. I know he just got married not too long ago, so I figured him and his wife are probably out there and they're secretly watching things. And Borucki seems to me like the type of guy who would strike you in a strong conversation about numerous topics within these shows. So I feel like that could be something he genuinely likes. But again, no knowledge. We're just taking stabs in the dark here.
Yep.
2 more to go, or 3 more to go, sorry. Which Blue Jay has the best fashion taste?
Oh, best fashion taste. Oh. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
My thoughts is it was Lourdes Gurriel as well. Just
okay.
And how he goes
I was say I'm debating between Lourdes and maybe Bo Bichette. I feel like he's got kind of a young, kind of more hip vibe to him. Like not always super formal, but like always just kind of like subtly stylish.
Did you see what Bo Bichette was wearing at the All-Star game last year in Colorado when he came out? They do like the red carpet event.
I did not see that one actually.
Oh, he was basically in jeans. It was glorified jeans. Him walking out there. Every other player is dressed up. They're wearing nice. They're walking the red carpet. Bo Bichette looks like he just came back from like, I'm exaggerating a little, but like he was mowing the lawn or something. Came out there. He had his sunglasses on. So if that's fashion, that's great. Or if Bo Bichette just kind of wanted to go and do his own thing there, who knows? But it's worth a look if you haven't seen it. Go look it up.
I will. I think the thing with him too is just like there's kind of that quiet confidence.
Yes.
So I think it's the kind of thing where it's like I feel like he's the kind of guy where like anyone else wearing that, your immediate thought is that it's just kind of lazy and unstylish. Where with him, like I feel like that confidence kind of infuses it and just kind of makes it into something that maybe it's not.
Hey, I guess we just have to get Bo Bichette back to the All-Star game this year just to see what he comes up with again.
Let's go, Jays fans.
Right, there you go. Yeah. So which Toronto Blue Jay is most likely to have a collection of something weird or obscure?
I'm going to go with Hyunjin Ryu here.
Hyunjin Ryu, okay.
I feel like even from the first time, he's spoken to microphone, like he's just got kind of a unique energy about him. And I feel like he's the kind of guy that would just collect something like, like a little like ceramic figurine or something. I could see him having some sort of collection of weird like cat figurines.
Okay.
And just being like, I find this cool and I don't care. Like he has a very unique vibe to him.
My answer is Jordan Romano. He's a closer, right? He's got that weird closer vibe to him, and he gets out there and you almost have to be an elite closer. You have to be a little weird and a little off. And plus he's from Ontario, right? And I know a lot of Ontarians who just have some weird collections of things you don't even know what it is. So I bet you Jordan Romano's got something in there. He just likes to secretly collect all the time. What it is, beyond me, but that's just my guess there. And my last question that we have here is, which Toronto Blue Jay has the barista at Starbucks put a fake name on their cup?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna go with Vladdy here. I feel like it's a combo. I feel like it's a combo of like being a recognizable star and wanting to not necessarily hide from it, but not necessarily have to deal with it at Starbucks. And then also a little bit of like just that twinkle of mischief and just wanting to screw with him a little too.
Because he's a little bit rebellious, I guess here, eh? My pick to this, I chose Randal Grichuk, just because he seems very straight and obscure about himself, and maybe he just doesn't want to get into the conversation with like a barista or something that his name's Randall. Yes, I play for the Blue Jays, or he wants to get caught up. He seems to me like the type of guy who wants to get in, get his coffee, and just get out of there. So giving him a fake name might be do that. That question inspired me because I was reading an article about Derek Jeter, and Derek Jeter did that once. He went by the name, I think it was Robert, like his cups at Starbucks. So I thought it'd be cool if we could maybe find a Blue Jays one of those. But yeah, that's all I got for today, Quinn. Hope you had fun. It was an honor to have you as the first ever guest of our Bloods and Blue Jays.
The honor is all mine, sir.
I'm sure we're gonna have you on at some point throughout the season here as well, as we get going.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, perfect. Do you have any things you want to shout out, or any players, any teams, any moments that you want to get your shout out in there?
I mean, in terms of shout out, I'm excited to see this team as a whole this year. Like, I think this might be as kind of strong all around contending team as we've had that I can remember, and it's going to be a tough go, but it's just exciting. I want to see a full season of George Springer, knock on wood, because I think what he showed in the 60 or 80 games last year is like he's a difference maker, and I think he's
plus,
exactly, and I think that people kind of like they forget about that a little bit because he wasn't in the lineup as much. But I think you add him in there. I'm excited to see what Gausman can do. Return to the AL East. But if we have to pivot from the AL Cy Young Award winner, I thought that was as good a good move as any. And then some of the kids too. Like let's Nate Pearson, get him healthy. It's been 2 years ago he was expect to be the next Cy Young Award winner. Let's see what he's got back half of the season. Gabriel Moreno.
Yeah.
Like there's more guys coming. This seems sustainable.
And that's the plan that Shapiro and Atkins came up with. They wanted the young core who's currently in there, so the Vlad, the Bo, like these guys here, and then they wanted to suppress it with another core coming up. So that would be your Gabriel Moreno, your Orelvis Martinez, and all this stuff. And it would be so nice to see these plans come into action, right? And I'm with you. We're so close, and I just hope it happens sooner rather than later, because this is some of the best times to be a Blue Jays fan, a team this exciting in years. And what type of cruel joke would it be if it gets taken away from us?
Yep. Oh, exactly. Expos 94.
Yeah. People still talk about that to this day. And I'm sure you're in Montreal. You hear it more than I do.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm with you. I'm hopeful that we get to some sort of reasonable agreement here, and let's just play ball.
Let's play ball indeed. Well, that's it for our episode here today. Next week, we'll hopefully have more labor talk to get into, and we can actually do a spring training episode. If not, we'll hopefully have Riley back on here, and we might do some fun things. Maybe we'll do a draft of some Blue Jays teams of all time or whatnot. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at BudsJays, or send us an email at budsandbluejays@hotmail.com. If you're looking for some Toronto Maple Leaf content, you should check out our friends over at Leafs and Lads. They talk all things Toronto Maple Leafs, including their goaltending issues, some trade targets they might have as we get closer to the trade deadline. So Isaac Din and Mark have you covered over there. That'll do for us here tonight. Have a good night, and we'll see everyone next week.